Hi and welcome to my video on a little Philips 286 I got from eBay that came to me looking like this and ended up looking like this. As a kid, my first PC was a 286 running at 12 MHz, a basic brown NEC box with an amber mono screen. I've always had a soft spot for the 286 and have had many fond memories of trying to find games and applications that would run on it. I know in retro circles the 286 is not so popular. A little too fast for classic XT games, a little too slow for newer games that use VGA and Super VGA. So one night I spotted a 286 that was in parts and I decided to put 25 Aussie dollars on it. At the very least it had some floppy drives and cards I could possibly use. Lucky for me, I won the auction and the seller was all too happy to chat with me on the phone about the machine and my plans to restore it. He ended up posting it to me as we went into lockdown shortly after. When the parts arrived, I laid them out for inspection. The motherboard is based around the 286 running at 12 MHz. It is proprietary and highly integrated, very similar to other XT and AT models Philips made. It uses the G2 chipset which was owned by Headland and used in a variety of their AT-based chipsets for their motherboards. It has 4 16-bit and 1 8-bit ISA expansion slots, an onboard floppy, IDE, parallel, 2 serial and an AT keyboard connector. It supports up to 4 meg of 30-pin SIM memory in 120, 100 or 80 nanosecond configurations. It has a high-low BIOS chip and soldered Dallas real-time clock battery. Retrospector 78 has a very good quality video made about the P3230 restoration he did and shows how he removed the real-time clock chip and socketed a repair. I've linked it below if you'd like to see more detail. My motherboard cosmetically was not in great shape, but luckily there was no obvious damage or problems. A quick cleanup, straightening of the pins, socketing of the Dallas chip meant we were up and running in no time. I note that my board has a lot of jumper wiring and may have had some factory or warranty repairs done later. Onto the restore and repair. First, the chassis lid and base were missing. My father had a steel lid and aluminium base made up for me, which I had powder coated using a Colorbond evening haze colour. It's not authentic, but it does look the part. Next was the power button and socket. This unit has a power switch integrated into the power supply via a spring switch. Originally there was a clamp, stick and power button. I recreated something similar using a 3D print with some white and beige PLA. It did come out the way I planned, but I might make an improved version later. Here we have the P3230 complete and assembled as a finished, well for now, product. At the front we have a hard drive LED, a 1.2 meg 5¼ inch floppy, a 720K 3.5 inch floppy, and that newly made power button. Moving around to the side and the rear, we can see a power supply input, monitor output, which I won't be using, 2 serial ports, a parallel, and a keyboard port. For expansion we have 5 slots, and right now I've populated a sound card, video and XT-IDE compact flash card. The original graphics card was from Oak. It was VGA but also had an EGA-CGA mono port as well. I found the display output very noisy and it's possibly a faulty card. I've opted for the 512K Trident 8900C instead. This Trident is bottom of the barrel as far as performance is concerned, but picture quality is good and it suits this 286. The sound card is a MediaVision Pro Audio Spectrum 16. Released around 1992, it has a real OPL3 on board and is compatible with the Sound Blaster 8-bit. It also has excellent DOS support, a solid driver and utility set, and works well with Windows 3.1 in standard mode. Yes, probably overkill for a low-end 286. The hard disk and hard disk mounting plate were missing. Instead of recreating this, although I might later, I used an XT-IDE to compact flash adapter to facilitate a hard disk. The onboard IDE interface is really limited and unfortunately disables itself if you don't select the disk, rendering it useless for XT-IDE. Instead I use the XT-IDE Deluxe, which gives me an IDE interface and the compact flash slot. So now it's time to see this PC in action. I've kitted this machine out with 4 MB of RAM as I had some spare 80 nanosecond 1 meg sticks. Here you can see the XT-IDE startup and the alternative IDE controller at 300H, and you can see the PAS16 config there. First up we'll look at some system info and benchmarks. Checkit tells us we have DOS 6.22, a BIOS from April 1989 and a 286 with 4 meg of RAM. Using the inbuilt benchmark, Checkit claims the 286 is about 7 times faster than the original XT. And from a video card perspective, about 6 times faster. And we see a great result on the hard disk benchmark due to the compact flash card. and MIPS gives us an overall score of 1.52, which is about half of what a 386/16 gets. Landmark rates his PC as a 14 MHz AT and reports a CPU clock at 12.5, which is also what the BIOS states. Perhaps Philips slightly overclocked this CPU to get an edge, and maybe there's something in that. Topbench gives a rating of 29, slightly higher than the AT&T machine, which both use the same 286/12 CPU. This is Wolf3D's time demo benchmark. Using the smaller size screen we get 24.9 frames per second, but it wouldn't be fun to play this way. Stepping up to a half-size screen gets about 10 frames a second, which is playable, but only just. You do need either a fast 286 or a 386 for smooth play. Now on to the old version of 3D Bench. I'll speed up the test here. We end up getting about 4 frames per second, which is about right for a PC of this class. Now let's see how this little 286 goes playing some games.
Looks like he hit the tree, Jim.
So that wraps up this video on the Philips P3230. We've seen how it handles some of my favourite DOS games. In my next video I'll show how it fares against Windows 3.1, how it goes with some games and some multimedia tasks. Thanks for watching, see you in the next one.